In the fertile cradle of the Yellow River Valley, a new story of humanity began to unfold. Here, among the silty Loess plains, nomadic tribes laid down their spears and picked up farming tools, tethering their destiny to the earth. This wasn't just a change in lifestyle. It was the birth of a civilization. But the river that gave life could also bring destruction. Cataclysmic floods swept across the land, threatening to wash away this nascent society. From this chaos emerged a leader, a man whose legend would echo through millennia. Yu the Great. He didn't just build dikes. He understood the water's flow, dredging channels and guiding the torrents to the sea. For 13 years, he toiled, his hands calloused, his body weary, but his spirit unbroken. His success was so profound that it earned him not just respect, but the throne. With him, the Jia dynasty was born, and a new precedent was set. The right to rule would be passed from father to son, establishing the first hereditary system in this land. The foundation of an empire was laid. The Shia's rule eventually gave way to the Sheng, and then the Zhou. With the Zhou came a powerful new political and religious doctrine, the mandate of heaven. The emperor was no longer just a king. He was the son of heaven, ruling with divine blessing. But this mandate was not permanent. If a ruler became corrupt or inept, heaven could withdraw its favor, signaling the change through natural disasters and rebellions. It was a celestial check on earthly power. As the Zhou's authority began to wane, its vast territory fractured into a patchwork of rival states. This period of turmoil, known as the Spring and Autumn period, paradoxically gave rise to an unprecedented intellectual golden age. The 100 schools of thought blossomed as thinkers and scholars roamed the courts, offering their wisdom on governance, warfare, and the human condition. Among them was Confucius, or Confucius, a humble teacher whose ideas on morality, family loyalty, and social harmony would shape the very soul of the culture for thousands of years. He envisioned a society where everyone understood their role and acted with benevolence and integrity. In contrast, the enigmatic Laozi, author of the Tao teaching, preached a different path. He spoke of the Tao, the natural, effortless way of the universe, urging rulers to govern with a light touch, to embrace simplicity, and to act in harmony with nature's flow. While these philosophers debated the ideal way to live, another master was codifying the art of conflict. Sun Tzu, in his seminal work The Art of War, transcended simple battlefield tactics. He taught that the ultimate victory was won without fighting, through deception, strategy, and understanding both the enemy and oneself. His insights into strategy and psychology made him the most revered military strategist in history. The intellectual debates of philosophers couldn't hold back the tide of war. The Spring and Autumn period bled into the far more brutal warring states period. 7 powerful states vied for absolute supremacy. Warfare evolved dramatically. Bronze weapons were replaced by stronger, sharper iron. Armies swelled from thousands to hundreds of thousands, composed of disciplined infantry, cavalry, and deadly crossbowmen. It was an age of total war, where entire states were annihilated and the stakes were nothing less than survival. Amidst this bloody crucible, the state of Qin, once a minor power on the western frontier, began its relentless rise. Adopting the strict, meritocratic philosophy of legalism. The Qin state transformed itself into an efficient and merciless war machine. It rewarded farmers and soldiers, the twin pillars of its power, while suppressing merchants and scholars. Every aspect of society was geared toward one goal: conquest. One by one, the other states fell before the Qin's might. Into 21 BC, the last rival state surrendered. The king of Qin, Yingzheng, had achieved what no one had before. He had conquered all under heaven. He declared himself Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor. His rule was absolute and often brutal, but it was also transformative. To unify his vast and diverse new empire, he initiated a sweeping series of reforms. He standardized the writing script, ensuring his decrees could be read from the northern plains to the southern jungles. He unified weights, measures, and even the axle widths of carts to facilitate trade and communication. To defend his northern borders from nomadic horsemen, he connected existing fortifications, marshalling a colossal labor force to create the first iteration of the Great Wall, a serpentine dragon of earth and stone. And in death, his ambition was no less grand. He commissioned a subterranean necropolis guarded by the terracotta army, an entire legion of life-sized clay soldiers, each with a unique face, forever frozen in silent, eternal duty. The Qin's iron-fisted rule, however, was unsustainable. Shortly after the first emperor's death, his dynasty crumbled. From the ashes rose a new power, the Han Dynasty, founded by the commoner-turned-emperor, Liu Bang. The Han would rule for over 400 years, consolidating the imperial system and ushering in China's first great golden age. The most ambitious of the Han rulers was Emperor Wu. His long reign was marked by vigorous military expansion, pushing the empire's borders into Central Asia, Korea, and Vietnam. It was Emperor Wu who dispatched the emissary Zhang Jin to the west, an expedition that inadvertently opened the legendary Silk Road. This network of trade routes would become the primary artery for commerce, culture, and ideas between the East and West for centuries. To govern his expanding empire, Emperor Wu also formalized the civil service examination, a revolutionary system that selected officials based on merit and their knowledge of Confucian classics, rather than solely on aristocratic birth. After the Han's eventual decline and the period of division known as the Three Kingdoms, an era of legendary heroes and brilliant strategists like Cao Liu Bei and Zhu Zhiliang, the empire was eventually reunified, and after another brief period of strife entered its second golden age under the Tang dynasty. The Tang is often remembered as the high point of imperial China's power and cultural brilliance. Its armies were the most formidable in Asia, its capital, Chang'an, the largest and most cosmopolitan city in the world. Under rulers like Emperor Taizong and Emperor Xuanzong, poetry and art flourished. Poets like Li Bai and Du Fu composed verses that are still recited today, capturing the splendor and sorrows of their time. Yet, like all dynasties, the Tang's glory eventually faded, giving way to internal rebellion and fragmentation. Centuries later, a new threat emerged from the northern steppes. The Mongols, united under Genghis Khan, had built the largest contiguous land empire in world history. His grandson, Kublai Khan, set his sights on the prosperous lands of the south. After decades of resistance, the last remnants of the Song dynasty fell, and for the first time, all of China was ruled by foreign conquerors. Kublai Khan established the Yuan dynasty, moving his capital to what is now Beijing. While his administration adopted many Chinese systems, resentment simmered. A century later, a peasant rebellion led by a former monk, Zhu Yuanzhang, successfully drove the Mongols out. He proclaimed himself the Hongwu Emperor and founded the Ming dynasty, restoring Han Chinese rule. The Ming sought to project an image of power and stability. The Hongwu Emperor's son, the Yongle Emperor, moved the capital to Beijing and began construction on a magnificent new imperial residence. The Forbidden City, a sprawling complex of 9,999 rooms that would serve as the political and ritual center of the empire for the next 500 years. It was also the Yongle Emperor who sponsored the grand naval expeditions of Admiral Zheng He, whose massive treasure fleets sailed as far as the coast of Africa, decades before the European age of exploration. But the Ming, too, grew stagnant and corrupt. In the northeast, another group of outsiders, the conquests, were consolidating their power. In 1644, they swept south, breached the Great Wall, and seized the throne, establishing China's final imperial dynasty, the Qing. The early Qing emperors, particularly Qin Shi and Qian Long, were capable and astute rulers. They presided over a long period of peace and prosperity, expanding the empire to its greatest territorial extent. Under their rule, the population boomed and the arts continued to thrive. It was the zenith of imperial power. But by the 19th century, this ancient empire faced unprecedented challenges. Internal pressures from overpopulation and corruption were compounded by aggressive external pressure from the technologically superior Western empires, who were hungry for trade. The Opium Wars, humiliating military defeats, and a series of unequal treaties eroded Qing's sovereignty. Internal rebellions, like the devastating Taiping Rebellion, shook the dynasty to its core. A series of reforms proved to be too little, too late. The system that had endured for over 2 millennia was cracking under the strain of the modern world. In 1912, the last emperor, a young boy named Pui, abdicated the throne. The mandate of heaven had been withdrawn for the final time. The age of emperors was over, bringing an end to one of the longest and most compelling chapters in the story of human civilization. Thank you for joining us on this journey. For more stories from history, be sure to subscribe.